Deputy U.S. Marshal Caleb Hart had seen his fair share of tough situations. High-risk fugitive apprehensions, witness protection logistics, and joint operations with task forces across the country. After 18 years of fieldwork and near-constant travel, he'd finally decided to slow things down. Well, sort of. He bought a home in Birchwood Estates, a quiet, HOA-run neighborhood on the edge of town. It had the white fences, the neatly trimmed hedges, and the illusion of peace he'd been chasing after years on the road. But Caleb wasn't fully retiring. He was simply transitioning to a new assignment. He'd recently been tasked with overseeing the U.S. Marshal's regional tactical equipment deployment, which meant transporting gear, secure items, and personnel to field offices across the tri-state area. To do this, he operated a semi-truck cab, clearly marked with federal insignia and used for official government business. The issue began when Caleb started parking the truck overnight in his own extended driveway. Just the cab, not a full trailer. Clean, quiet, and backed in professionally, it wasn't blocking anyone, wasn't leaking fluid, and never ran idle. Still, the sight of a large government-marked semi rattled a few overly image-conscious residents. One morning, Caleb returned from a 72-hour transport to find a bright pink notice taped to his mailbox. Notice of violation. Parking of oversized or commercial vehicles is strictly prohibited under Section 4.1 of the Birchwood HOA Covenant. Your semi-truck cab has been reported multiple times and must be removed within 24 hours to avoid a $200 daily fine. He smiled, not because he found it amusing, but because he'd seen this type of power play before, and it never ended well for the person who underestimated the law. Caleb called the HOA office and was met with a dismissive response from the board president, Amanda Leeds, a former real estate agent with a flair for rules and an allergy to compromise. "Sir," she said condescendingly, "I don't care if the truck has a government seal. Our bylaws prohibit commercial vehicles. Period." "With all due respect, Ms. Leeds," Caleb replied coolly, "that vehicle isn't commercial. It's federal. It's used in the execution of my duties as a deputy U.S. Marshal." "Well, then perhaps you should find parking on federal property." Click. Caleb didn't argue further. Instead, he gathered his documentation, his federal ID, the operational directive authorizing vehicle use for transport of federal property, a signed letter from the Marshal Service confirming his assignment, and, most importantly, a local ordinance carved out for federal vehicles which clearly stated that federally registered and authorized law enforcement vehicles were exempt from private HOA restrictions. The next day, he filed a formal challenge to the violation, CCing the HOA, the city zoning office, and his agency's legal liaison. Amanda Leeds responded with a terse letter doubling down on the fine. So Caleb did one better. He showed up at the next HOA meeting in uniform. When he entered the room, it went silent. His badge, the patch on his shoulder, and the calm authority in his stride silenced every side comment in the room. "I don't come here to intimidate," he began, "but I do come to clarify. That vehicle you're so worried about, it's not hauling pallets or selling goods. It's transporting secure equipment for fugitive operations and tactical deployments. In short, it helps keep your streets safer." He placed the ordinance and legal letters on the table. "Your fine violates federal law and city ordinance. If you persist, I'll have no choice but to escalate this to the DOJ's Property Rights Division." That got their attention. Within 48 hours, the fine was dropped, and the board voted to amend their parking rules to exempt any vehicle used by active or assigned federal law enforcement personnel, provided it met size and safety guidelines. Today, Caleb still parks the cab in his driveway between missions. Now, instead of pink violation notices, he occasionally finds thank you notes from neighbors. One even brought him cookies and said, "Didn't realize you were that kind of trucker." He just smiled and said, "Yep, the kind that chases bad guys and parks legally."